the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Black, and joining us are two special guests as always. We've got Michael and Luke, and they're the co-founders of SkyTale Digital, which is a company that helps restaurants get more customers. Pleasure to have you guys on the show.
It's a pleasure being here.
Thanks for having us.
So let's get right down to it. Obviously, the pandemic just destroyed the restaurant industry as one of the primary spaces that was impacted. So how did that impact your business, and how did you ultimately bounce back and help these restaurants?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look at the restaurant industry, nothing really has happened to the restaurant industry like this since probably the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. So this has really decimated the restaurant industry. And of course, because we're working with restaurants, it's affected our business quite a bit as well. But ever since, we really bounced back nicely. It looks like things are opening back up, and the restaurants are starting to see a rebound.
Yeah, March 2020 was a pretty crazy time.
Yeah.
And for all restaurants, and especially for our business too, when restaurants were closed down, it was basically illegal to even operate a business. So it's hard to run advertisements for a closed business. So our business definitely took a big hit during COVID. But ever since COVID started till now, our business has actually tripled.
It's amazing. And nobody ever expected it to last this long.
Exactly.
There you go.
We thought it was going to be a couple of weeks. Here we are a year plus into it.
Yeah. And I'm sure the restaurants and a lot of other people thought the same thing. So what is it exactly that you guys are helping these restaurants do to get customers? I mean, we've all heard there's so many different ways that people go and try to pitch restaurants. And I'm sure anybody who's a restaurant owner listening has been pitched many of these services. What makes you guys different?
Right. Well, I think what makes us different is, first of all, the problem most restaurants have is that they're not doing any advertising because they don't have the expertise or the time to even do it. Or they are advertising and they have no clue if it's working. They're spending money, they can't track it. It's just a guessing game. So we come in and we analyze their situation and say, okay, here's what we can do to actually run profitable ads, be able to track it all to the penny so we know how many customers came in, what they're spending down to the penny. So we're actually giving that owner confidence and clarity that they can spend money and actually make more money from it.
And it's more of a mindset, Mark, as you probably know. I mean, really advertising in today's day and age, you have to be doing it. If you're not in front of your ideal customer, your consumers are going to go somewhere else. So we're really kind of help them with the mindset and help them realize you're not just a restaurant nowadays, especially going into the new world, as we call it. You're not just a restaurant, you're a marketing company that sells food and an experience.
And one of the things I love that you said is you're not a restaurant, you're a marketing company.
Right.
And that's the biggest shift that I think most businesses in general need to make. And obviously on Business Rockstars, we talk with so many different businesses.
Sure.
And when you make the shift to understanding every business is in the business of marketing.
Exactly.
And if you're not, you're probably struggling. And so I want to know, look, restaurants is a tough business to be in. Why did you guys choose that as your specific niche? Because so many businesses could probably benefit from your services. Why restaurants?
Great question.
It's a great question. So I used to work for a restaurant marketing company. I helped grow the company to thousands of locations. And I was there for a handful of years. And about my second year there, I was thinking to myself, I realized that we really weren't following through on our promise as much as we said we were. The restaurant truly wasn't profiting that much from the service that we were providing. And I've always wanted to start and run my own business. And so a light bulb went off and I said, hey, we can help these guys. There's a big need in the market for someone powerful to come in and truly help these guys use advertising, but also make it super profitable.
And sometimes big companies drop the ball right there, like you were saying, right? Sometimes they get too big and their quality of service, especially from an agency perspective, can drop. And so you guys kind of went the boutique route and actually focused on getting the client results first instead of trying to scale.
Exactly. And for me, the reason why I'm really passionate about the restaurant industry is simply because if you think about it, the restaurant industry kind of holds the fabric of society. I mean, you can probably relate to this, Mark. How many great moments have you had at a restaurant, right? How many great things happen at a restaurant? You're celebrating important things in life with your family, with your loved ones. So really, our mission has become, especially during COVID, to just make sure that as many restaurants make it to the other end of the storm, because it's super, super important for us to help them accomplish that and continue having a presence in their community.
I love that, because right now, so many amazing little mom and pop shops that really connect the communities together are the ones that struggle the most traditionally. And so I love that you guys have chose restaurants. And I know that's kind of like the backbone, right? That's like, now it's essential. Everybody has like food and knows that they need to be able to go to their restaurant to get food. And are you guys helping them with like other things like Uber Eats and, I order food to my house all the time.
Sure.
So are you guys helping them in that sense? Or are you guys using other types of marketing? I just want to know, is it Yelp? Is it Facebook ads? Is it YouTube ads? What type of marketing are these businesses actually getting from you guys?
That's a great question. So we want to have a marketing program that brings customers directly to them. So, there's other good companies like Uber Eats and Postmates and things like this, and they're taking percentages from the restaurant. And so they're taking a lot of their profit margin. We run ads on social media to get customers off of their couch or on their phone to order directly from the restaurant. So the restaurant keeps more of that profit margin.
Awesome. For sure. Yeah, we'll consult them on how to best position themselves on all these big platforms. But ultimately, our goal is to actually give the restaurant owner more control and just give them direct access to all these amazing tools that are out there without having to give away, 15, 20, 30% to the big tech and the big delivery companies.
Yeah. Love it. Well, you guys were talking about your backstory a little bit. So I want to shift gears and get into that. How did you guys meet? How did you get into business together? And did you always know that entrepreneurship was the path you wanted to take?
It's a great question. Mike and I have been best friends for probably way too long.
Sure.
Since about high school, actually. And went to college together and actually moved down to Arizona roughly about the same time as well. Yeah. So we've had a sports background. He played soccer. I played basketball growing up. So we have that competitive nature. And I think we've always wanted to get into business, and we didn't really know what it would be or how we could provide the most value. But stars aligned, and here we are.
Sure. My background is a little bit more unique. I actually was adopted from Russia when I was about 15 years old. So kind of a late adoption, doesn't happen very often, but it did nonetheless. And I'm grateful to be in the States. And my father actually, he has a business, and I've always looked up to him. And so that's kind of what really drove me to be in business. And my goal was to own a business one day. And here we are. So when I first got here, when I was about 15 years old, we've pretty much been friends since then, ever on. So here we are.
Well, one of the questions I always like to ask people on the show is, when you started your business in the first year, was it harder than you thought or easier than you thought?
Much harder. I would say it was.
It
much
usually
harder.
is.
Yeah.
It usually is.
Right. The way it looks like it to me is that things always take a lot longer than you think, and they always cost a lot more than you think. So I think it's definitely been a little bit harder than I expected it to be.
What advice would you give to somebody who's tuning in with us and they're thinking, I'm in my first year or my second year in business and I haven't really got the momentum. Times are tough right now for a lot of businesses. What would you tell that person?
My piece of advice would to be at the beginning, try to be as frugal as you can in terms of keeping as much money as you can, but then putting that money into investments that are really high leverage. So
give us some examples.
For example, for us, we didn't go right away. We didn't try to scale too fast. We try to just help as many restaurants as we can at a fair price and not waste money in terms of hiring too many people or spending money in ways that actually don't contribute to growth. For us, we've made a lot of investments, and we're not scared to invest money, but it has to be towards growth. So, take risks, and if it make educated decisions. And even if it costs a lot of money, if the payout is there, you got to go for it.
Yeah, and I think just to go off of that, and Mark, you're perfect at this. You're all about personal branding, right? And then of course, if you're a business owner, whether it's your personal brand or it's your business brand, it's really all the same thing. So if you're going to be in business, especially in today's day and age, you really have to care a lot, and you have to make the right investments into your business and into your brand. And then eventually that's going to produce, because if you're not doing those things, let's be honest, I mean, your competitors are going to be doing it.
100%. And one of my favorite things whenever we have two guests on the show at the same time, which is unique and sometimes rare, is most people say you should never partner with the person who's got the same skill set as you. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you're the sales guy, you're the operations and finance guy. Is that the case? Are you guys different skill sets and parts of the business, or are you guys both the same skill sets and both do the same thing?
That's a great question. I think we have a lot of synergy. I'm more of a kind of strategic and creative, and then you're more of like the technical sales. So I think we have a lot of synergy, and we've done pretty well. It works out for us.
Love it. That's always important. And when most businesses try to figure out who the first person is that they should hire, I think that's a big roadblock for some people. You were talking about only investing your cash in the beginning and high leverage things that are going to generate a profit. most business owners are afraid to make an investment, whether that's in marketing or hiring somebody else. How do you guys navigate that in your own business? And what would you advise somebody else for maybe their first hire?
I think when looking at employees, the most important thing that we look for is hiring people who care,
Right.
you know, and who are hungry to be great. And they don't need to have this hunger to be, you know, an entrepreneur or to be the richest in the world. But as long as they just want and have this internal itch to do really good work, they don't have to have the most knowledge about the certain topics or the job even. But as long as they're hungry and they're coachable, we've found that's to be really good qualities.
100%. And I think also it's be able to find an employee who is going to be congruent with your company and your mission, right? Of course, you don't want to hire somebody who wants to be very comfortable hanging around in a 9-to-5 cubicle type of job, right? You want someone who is going to be really hungry for a lot of growth, because we are sort of in our startup stage and really taking off right now. So it's all about that mindset. You got to find the right employees who are on the same page as you are.
So one of the things that I've been dying to ask you guys on camera, we talked about it a little bit off camera, is when a restaurant is talking with you guys about your service, most of the time they look at marketing as an expense. And that can hold them back from growth, continuing to actually operate their business, and potentially getting the help from you guys. How do you help them reframe marketing from being an expense to being something that is an absolute profit generator?
Sure. Well, if you look at marketing, there's really two ways of doing things. It's the old way and the new way. The old way, it doesn't work that well anymore. This is a new world. And if you look at, you know, if you have an iPhone, you look at how long you're on your phone every day, most people it's 4 to 8 hours. So that's where people's attention is. And if you're doing things the old way, it can totally be an expense and it can be a waste of money. But the new way of doing things, it's more of like an asset. You can put money in and make more money on the back end. So what we try to educate our restaurant owners on is that one customer coming into the restaurant, they're not worth $20 that they spend that day. They're not worth $30 they spend that day. But the National Restaurant Association will say that one restaurant customer is worth about $6,000 over their lifetime. So if that customer has a good experience, they come back and they tell their friends and family about them, that one customer is worth so much money, but some people don't see that right away. But knowing those numbers makes that one customer very, very valuable.
And I remember that's something that I learned early on in business as well. And I actually had a bad experience at a restaurant. It was a really nice restaurant where it's a couple $100 every time you go, usually per person. So it's like, could be thousands of dollars just to go to the restaurant. You add that up over the lifetime value of every, you know, birthday and business meeting, tens of thousands of dollars lifetime value of the customer. Had one bad experience because the employee wasn't trained to look at it as a lifetime value customer, where it's like, this one customer could be my whole annual salary over the course of a year of coming to the restaurant. And so I stopped going to the restaurant. And I remember I even like told the manager when he came up, I said, your employees need to understand the lifetime value of the customer and not thinking this is just a $500 dinner.
So true.
This is a $30,000 customer.
Yeah.
And so I love that you brought that up. Why would a restaurant, though, not just go and do these things that you're going to help them with by themselves? Why would they hire you guys and choose you guys for your professional expertise?
Of course. And so if you look at the restaurant industry in general, a typical restaurant owner is really, really busy. I'll give you an example. Whether you're doing $1 million in sales or you're doing 15 million bucks in sales as a restaurant owner, if your dishwasher doesn't show up, you're going to be driving to the restaurant, rolling up your sleeves and doing the dishes yourself. So one of the biggest things is that they're super busy. That's number one. Number two is they don't have the skill set, right? I mean, there's such a huge skill gap when it comes down to advertising and marketing. And so what we do is we help sitting down with the restaurant owner and actually looking at a full year marketing calendar that we follow, you know, plugging in advertisements. We're doing organic things. We're doing, you know, different events that they have going on in their local community. So we're really put together a solid marketing calendar where they don't have to worry about what are we doing next week? What's our advertising strategy going to look like next year? It's all packaged very well together, and they don't really have a whole lot of work to do after that.
And you can't blame them either, right? You can't blame them. They're busy. They got so many things going on. They need to figure out their margins and figure out their scheduling with staff. And so for me, I'm a really bad chef. I'm a bad chef, but I'm a good marketer. So for a restaurant owner, they might be a great chef, but a bad marketer. So every restaurant, every business in general should have, you know, a sales and marketing team, a sales and marketing department. And a lot of them don't have it because they don't have the time to do it. And so can't blame them. And then we're here to help them.
Do you guys see restaurants, hopefully going back to the way things were, And if not, do you think that every business owner, restaurant needs to prepare that it may never go back to 100% the way it was, and that they have to adopt an online strategy?
Of course. I think that a lot of things are getting better now, but it just exposes the weaknesses in some businesses that you have to have an online presence. People's attention are in their phone, their eyeballs are in their phone, and you have to have a way to get customers off their couch and into your restaurant.
So this isn't just like you guys are a short-term Band-Aid. You guys aren't just helping them during tough times of the pandemic. You guys could be a long-term strategy for every restaurant moving forward.
That's exactly right. The best way to put it, really, and the way we explain this to the restaurant owner is this: when you're hiring us, you really are bringing on the best sales and marketing team in the world. Every single restaurant should have a sales and a marketing department. And that's one of the things that I think the restaurant industry kind of forgets about. You still are in the business of sales and marketing, and you're selling and marketing your food in your atmosphere.
Because just because you have a brick and mortar restaurant doesn't mean that customers are going to be stampeding in.
Sure.
And sometimes people forget that, right? And that's just not the case. And so while some businesses can do really well without advertising, there's always an extra untapped potential that they can tap into and make even more profits.
I love that. And I want to know, what's the vision for your guys' company? Is it expanding into more restaurants, or is it also expanding into helping other types of businesses as well? What is the vision?
Sure. I think we'd like to help at least 10,000 restaurants improve their marketing, improve their sales, improve their profits. So we'd like to stay in the restaurant industry, but we're definitely also can help other businesses as well. Strategies like these, they work for other businesses also.
Yeah, we have some restaurant owners who have other types of businesses too, right? Professional baseball teams, drive-in movie theaters, places like that. So we have a few clients that we do other work for, but mainly restaurants.
Cool. And so let's just say there was a restaurant owner in the room with us. They're your guys' perfect avatar. What are some of the first things that you would want to talk to them about and look at to really kind of audit their business and make sure that you can help them?
The first piece of advice, if you will, that I would give to a restaurant owner is stop looking at your customer as someone who's worth, 15 or 20 bucks to you. If you take care of your customers, they're worth, $6,000 to you. So you're not in the low ticket game. You're in the high ticket sales game.
And real quick on that note, do you have some examples of just things they could do to better take care of their customers?
Absolutely. So, you have to first find time as a restaurant owner, not to work in your business, but to work on your business. Right?
And that goes for every business.
For every single business. Yeah. And we can relate to this as well, of course. So once you find the solution to that, you can then train your employees and actually have the time to train your employees, retain your employees, and they are going to take care of your customer. So your customer keeps coming back and giving you their business.
Love that. So a couple other things, though, I want to keep going down that. So if there's a restaurant owner here with us, some of the things that we're going to help them with, the three of us, right? What is the things we're going to help that business owner with to convince them? Are we going to look at their numbers? Are we going to ask them what are they currently running for advertising and marketing and compare that against what maybe we could produce for them? Do you have some examples of that?
Yeah, usually we'll hop on a call and we'll understand what they're currently doing right now. If it's working, if it's not, can they track it? 9 out of 10 times they're not doing as much as they should, or they are, and it's a guessing game on if it's working or not. So if we can actually come in and say, okay, we have a whole year marketing calendar for you. We don't approach the restaurant owner with, hey, let's try this out, let's test this. We have a plan that's proven. Thousands of campaigns we've ran before. So when we sign up a restaurant client, they come with us, they are going to have a full year plan. They know everything that we're doing. Everything's very structured. Of course, they approve it all because it's their business, but everything is very structured, and plans get results. And if we follow through on that, everything is good.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is you guys have a book. Could you guys quickly share a little bit about that with us?
Sure. We wrote an ebook. Actually, it was back in 2017 or 2018, I believe. And what's convenient about that ebook is that we actually talked about some sort of an event coming up. Mark, I know you love investments and you're in that whole investment world. And it was only a matter of time before there was going to be a market correction, right? Of course, we didn't expect anything like this happening, but we were expecting some sort of a slowdown in the economy. And that's what we actually focused on in our ebook. And we're giving some of the tips that restaurant owners can utilize to actually get ahead of the storm. So fast forward to today, when you look at what's going on in this current environment, it's extremely relevant. So it's something that we wrote, and we've had thousands of people read through it, and we've gotten some great feedback.
It's almost like you predicted something would happen. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, if anybody wants to go get our ebook, of course, they can go to our website, which is skytaledigital.com. It's SKYTALE digital.com. It's free ebook.
I love that. So I want to talk about some people who may be watching that aren't even business owners. And I want to give them a little bit of advice right now. So first of all, how does somebody know when it's the right time to jump into entrepreneurship? I know some people have kind of been forced into it right now because maybe they lost their job due to the pandemic. But how does somebody know when the right time is to jump into entrepreneurship? It's a tough question to answer.
Sure. It is. I think personally for me, and I'm always going to be giving advice based on my own experiences, of course, I've always had this just burning desire to have a business, to be an entrepreneur. And I think if you're watching this and you know if you have that burning desire and you know when it's the right time to do that, but some of the practical advice, of course, make sure you have some savings, right? Make sure you are producing capital and you have enough at least for 6 months to 12 months worth of expense covered. And then at that point, you're going to be much more ready to dive in. But of course, the most important thing is that burning desire inside of you that's telling you you have to be doing this.
Right. My advice would be to get experience. Get experience in different types of jobs before you actually dive into what you want to start your business around. For example, for me, I learned the restaurant marketing space inside and out.
Sure.
And so then by looking at that, I said, okay, there's an opportunity here. But without having that experience, I would have never known that. So I think it's really important to, maybe when people graduate college, might not be the best time to start a business right away, but get 3, 4, 5 years of experience, and then you can make that jump.
Love that. And regardless, I think my personal opinion is there is probably never going to be a perfect time to get started.
Sure.
Just as there's probably never a perfect time to have children.
Yeah.
It's always going to be crazy and wild no matter what. So you just got to get started at some point. But I love the advice. Try to be strategic and have some extra cash flow in the bank so that you can survive. Because like we talked about, your first year is usually a lot harder than you expect. I want to know, do you guys have any favorite entrepreneurs? From Elon Musk to whoever it may be. Is there any entrepreneur that you like to study and watch what they're doing and learn from?
Sure. I love Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson, CEO of ClickFunnels. I love how simple his marketing is, right? He doesn't overcomplicate things. He doesn't go into the details with things. But I love how simple it is. The message is always very, very clear. So in the marketing world, I love Russell Brunson. In the restaurant marketing space, or just the restaurant space in general, I love John Taffer. I think he has great advice for all restaurant owners.
He's been on the show.
There you go.
He's been on the show as well, sitting where you guys have sat. I love that. What about you?
And for me, it's actually Ty Lopez, whom you know personally.
You guys are picking the OG online marketers. I love it.
Yep. I love what he's done. I love how well he's been able to pivot. And also, he's really impacted a lot of individuals, myself included. I used to consume his content over and over and over again. I purchased many of his courses so I can educate myself as well. And fast forward to today, he's actually one of the individuals that's responsible for me, being in the position that I'm at right now.
Love it. I want to know what your guys' personal opinion is on the distinction between being a marketer and then investing in branding. Because most business owners don't understand why they should invest in them. And they kind of don't understand really the difference between the two. I just, out of curiosity, do you guys have your own input on that? Like, this is marketing, this is branding, and you should invest in both because?
Well, I think it's sometimes difficult to draw a line of which is which. Mm-hmm. But obviously, both are really important. You have to have the sales, you have to generate sales, but also the content is really important as well. Because once you have the eyeballs on the business, you have to impress people, or you have to seduce them in a way. So I think that's. I think the marketing, the sales aspect comes first. You got to get the traffic, and then how do you impress them?
Exactly. And I think one comes with the other, right? So first of all, you have to have your marketing figured out. You have to have the proper messaging and everything intact. But then once you're generating capital from that, at least have your basics, you have to be taking those funds and then reinvesting them into personal branding, into business branding, because that's ultimately what your customers are seeing. If what they're seeing you as online is what's ultimately going to be the reason whether they're going to be buying from you or they're going to be buying from somebody else.
Love that. So I want to know, what is the thing that you guys are most excited about when it comes to the restaurant industry with online marketing? Is there anything that you guys are super excited about? Like, everybody's now every restaurant is now like much more aware about investing into marketing, or the shift. Is there anything specifically that you guys are like super excited about in the restaurant marketing space?
Sure. Personally, for me, I'm just super excited because the restaurant owners who've made it this far through this crazy storm that we've seen in 2020, they have something special going on. And that means they have certain things that are working And if they just add the proper marketing, the proper advertising strategies, their business is never going to be the same. So I'm just personally excited about the online space. I like all these big platforms like Facebook, like Instagram. They're consistently evolving. And if you're not evolving with them, or at least understand how those systems work and how they can apply it to your business, for your restaurant, you're going to be slipping behind a little bit.
Right. Yeah, for me, I think it's important to look at a lot of restaurants are stuck doing old school things. And coronavirus has really just exposed a lot of businesses, and it's really just have taught them that they need to up their game and level up their marketing. And so for me, I think that the sky is the limit. If you look at the 1920s or 1918 pandemic, right? The roaring 20s came right after that. I think we'll probably see a roaring 2020s here pretty soon. And the space is always going to keep getting more and more powerful. Facebook, Instagram, all these social media platforms are going to keep getting more and more powerful. And the business owners can just take advantage of that to their benefit.
I love that. Is there any final message that you guys want to leave for restaurant owners out there, or just business people in general?
Well, I think for just business people in general, if you've got that itch, you got to scratch it. Go for it. For restaurant owners, just level up your marketing. There's so much profits to be made by looking into things like this, and it can really help you, your business, your family, and leave a nice legacy.
Take the risk, right? Marketing is something that can become the most profitable thing you ever do in your life. Spend $1, make $2, hypothetically.
Right.
And so I love that advice. Business owners take the risk, invest in their marketing and their branding, and it will pay off down the road. What about you, though? Any final words?
I would say the exact same thing. If you're a restaurant owner and you're watching this, just remember, whether or not you hire us or we ever have an opportunity to speak with you, a few things that you can really take away is you really have to be advertising, right? You have to be advertising. You have to be focused on your brand. And you really have to take care of your customer and treat them as someone who is worth a lot more to your bottom line than just a couple of bucks.
I love that. And what's the website again that people can go to if they want to connect with you, learn more, or grab a copy of that ebook?
Yeah, SkyTaleDigital.com. It's SKYTALE digital.com.
Love it. Michael, Luke, appreciate you guys for coming on the show. This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack, and for more episodes, head over to businessrockstars.com.